Considering how many Tomb Raider videos I've made in the past, including some to make fun of Lara Croft, others to show how badass she is, and a juvenile fanfic series that must not be talked about, it's astonishing that I've never actually shared my opinions about the games themselves. So today, I will be ranking the levels of Tomb Raider I Remastered, from worst to best. The 4 extra levels from the unfinished business expansion will not be included because, frankly, I hate them. This ranking is based on my personal preferences, not any statistics, general fan consensus, or objective analysis. But my opinions are not set in stone, and I'd love to hear about yours, so feel free to share them in the comments. To be honest, right from the get-go, I must have been asleep when the Tomb Raider I hype train drove by, because even though it's the one that started this beloved franchise, I never quite liked it. The graphics kept giving me headaches as a kid, Lara's pistols sounded like toy guns, and the story wasted its potential by not going deep enough into what could have been a very unique and interesting take on Atlantean lore. But the 2024 remaster has taken care of some of the technical issues at least, and improved my opinion of the game as a whole, so that's what I'll be looking at. Number 15. The Cistern. Water isn't my element, neither in real life nor in fiction. In any game I've ever played, from the old Super Marios on SNES to modern AAA titles, it's usually the water levels that I enjoy the least, and the Cistern, or as I prefer to call it, the Pistern, is Tomb Raider I's version of that. While definitely prettier in the remaster than in the original game, it's still a glorified sewer, and Pierre in this level seems to be even more annoying than usual, so I have no qualms about singling it out as my least favourite part of this game. Number 14. Tomb of Tehokan. Poor Tehokan. His last resting place is underneath the dank, nasty sewers, while Qualopec got to move into the awesome Dinosaur Valley. It's quite clear who was the favourite Atlantean king here. If Tomb Raider I was a TV show, then this would be the useless filler episode, because aside from the final big cave containing the actual tomb, it's just a continuation of the Cistern, offering next to nothing that the previous level didn't already have. The only thing giving it an advantage in my ranking is that there's a little less water. Unpopular opinion maybe, but Anniversary was wise to combine these two into one. Number 13. City of Khamun. As opposed to the Cistern and Tehokan's tomb, Egypt as a whole is the one segment that the original game did way better than Anniversary in my opinion, especially when it comes to visuals. Anniversary's version was overly bright and dull, and while that might be somewhat realistic, hell if I know, I've never been to Egypt in real life, let alone the ancient abandoned sites that Lara visits. It barely set itself apart from the 2 previous locations. The original TR1 and its remaster, on the other hand, do their best to bring it to life with a rich colour scheme, and it's definitely nice to see the sun again after hours in the Greek sewers. That said, I still don't like it very much. Everything from the level layout to the enemy encounters just rubs me the wrong way. Instead of pushing blocks around and fighting hordes of living and undead panthers at every turn, I would have preferred a more quiet approach, with Lara discovering traces of the lives and culture of the people who used to live here, because it's called a city after all, even though it doesn't look like one. Number 12. Obelisk of Khamun. Everything I said about the city of Khamun applies here as well. It's not a bad level per se, and I find it more entertaining than the previous one. It's just not my cup of tea. Moving on. Number 11. Caves. The biggest flaw of the otherwise decent Peru section is its extremely slow beginning. When you write a novel, the first chapter is very important because it has to capture the audience and make them want to keep going. Tomb Raider I's first level succeeds at that to some degree, but mostly because of its atmospheric background music. Gameplay-wise, it's a walking simulator, sending you through one big empty room after another, with not much interesting happening other than the mystery of how Lara doesn't freeze to death wearing nothing but her usual tank top and shorts combo in this snowy environment. At least, that's what she's wearing in canon. If you see any other clothes on her in my video, it's because I'm using mods and the outfit selection feature. If you have questions about any of the mods, just ask. Anyway, back to the level being somewhat boring. Keep in mind that I've played through the entire game multiple times, and now I'm rating the levels based on how much I personally enjoy them, not how friendly they are to beginners. But I think even beginners who might already have familiarized themselves with the game's controls at Croft Manor might just breeze through the caves. The good news is, it can only get better from here. Number 10. Natla's Mines. We enter my top 10 with an entry that I usually find at the bottom of everybody else's lists. Some say it's because the mines are so horribly difficult, which I don't understand. I do empathise with players who call them tedious though, with all the backtracking through samey-looking rooms and not seeing any progress. The first half of the level is basically caves with added puzzles. But it gets really good in the second half, where you face off against Natla's goons attacking you with your own guns. For the sake of my argument, I'm just going to pretend that the ridiculous skater kid and his underground skate park don't exist. This may not be the most fun level to play all the way through, but story-wise, it has more right to exist than some others, not least because it shows you the extent of the mining operation Natla has set up to unearth the remnant of Atlantis lying ahead. Number 9. City of Vilcabamba. A place that looks and feels a lot more like the remnant of an actual city than Commune, in large part due to clever decorations and texturing. For a playable section based on a distinct location in the real world, it's perhaps not as impressive as one might expect. But from a gameplay perspective, it's a step up from caves in every way, featuring a few simple puzzles, more challenging enemy encounters, and water for the first time. One thing Tomb Raider I does very well is the difficulty curve, something that can be noticed as early as in this second level. I kind of wish it had kept the snowy weather from before, because we're not going to see that again in this game. But as it is, Vilcabamba works well as a transition from caves to Lost Valley. Number 8. The Great Pyramid. So we've just uncovered the darkest secrets of an ancient civilization, seemingly killed the Queen of Atlantis herself, and decided that taking the Skion home isn't worth the risk that the ancient artifact poses. All that's left to do now is get the hell out. The level does a fine job depicting Lara's desperate escape from the collapsing pyramid, even including a scene of her destroying the Skion. That said, I wish the level didn't go on for as long as it does, given that pretty much everything that was supposed to happen in the story has already happened by this point, and we're basically playing a prolonged epilogue, not helped by the final boss fight with Natla being a joke compared to the giant mutant from earlier, and we don't even need to kill her to get out. But all in all, it's still an impressive action-packed level and a decent conclusion to the game. Number 7. Tomb of Qualopec. When I replayed this level for the first time in the remaster, it seemed a lot smaller than I remembered. But that's fine. It's supposed to be a tomb after all, not an underground theme park, even though the somewhat irrational dinosaur attractions can make it seem that way. I really appreciate the environmental storytelling at the start. You run up the slope towards the open burial chamber, only to be chased away by a boulder, letting you know that you're not welcome here. You evade it, go back up again to the now closed door, and the camera shows you the piece of the Skion sitting on its pedestal, just in case you forgot what you're here for. It's such a small detail, but one that is sorely missing from other games in the series that just throw you into random landscapes with no explanation whatsoever, expecting you to find your own motivation to keep going. Not to name any names, but Tomb Raider 3. With that settled, your main goal is to find another way into the burial chamber and escape with the first piece of the Skion, leading to an encounter with Larson outside and several plot-relevant discoveries. It's a nice little level that checks all the boxes without overstaying its welcome. Number 6. Atlantis. Even though the final boss encounters only happen in the next level, this one is the climax of Tomb Raider 1 from a gameplay perspective. The game brings you face to face with the fruit of Natla's labour, which includes a clone of Lara that mimics her every move, all the while testing your skills and everything you've learned up until this point. Exploration takes a back seat from now on, as the level is fairly linear, always leading you back to the big vertical room with the lava pit to show how far you've come and how far you have yet to go to reach the top. But don't worry, you'll be busy enough with everything else thrown at you. A brutal combination of platforming, traps, puzzles, and the hardest enemies in the entire game. As I've said before, something I appreciate about Tomb Raider I is how it handles its ever-increasing difficulty, which reaches its peak in this level. So does the horror of the environment, which looks and sounds like you're inside a living being. Number 5. Sanctuary of the Scion. I never thought an Egypt level would end up in my top 5, but Sanctuary is just that good. I wonder if this would have been Natla's tomb if she hadn't been kicked out of the Triumvirate prematurely, but in any case, I find it a lot more impressive and fun than the other two. My favourite kind of puzzle in classic Tomb Raider is seeing a door, key or lever just out of reach and having to figure out how to get there. That's basically what this level is all about, jumping and climbing and exploring under the watchful eyes of the giant Sphinx who is dominating the main room and overseeing your every move. Is she blessing or cursing Lara? You decide, but considering how insanely hard this level can get, especially towards the end, it's probably the latter. Still, if that's what it takes to have fun, feel free to curse me anytime, Sphinx. Number 4. Colosseum. Greece is an interesting location in this game. It has some of the worst levels in my opinion, but also some of the best. The Colosseum is arguably its most battle-heavy section, with various animal enemies in the arena and a few encounters with Pierre here and there. This could have gone very wrong, because the combat system has never been classic Tomb Raider's strongest point. But in this case, it makes complete sense considering where we are, and the level isn't long enough for it to become annoying. It is still big though, giving you ample space to explore whenever you're not shooting, and making the most out of its backdrop. Number 3. Palace Midas. This level repeats the basic formula of previous ones, making you look for several nearly identical objects that are all required to open the door to the next level. The search feels a little unbalanced, as 2 of the lead bars are prizes for completing short obstacle courses, whereas the third leads you on a wild goose chase throughout the entire palace. But it's a rather enjoyable goose chase, so I'm not complaining. I love how the developers integrated the Midas myth into the gameplay by having you transmutate the lead bars into gold using the giant statue's hand. And if you jump onto the hand yourself, well, the very same thing happens to Lara, creating what is arguably the most unique and iconic game over animation in the entire franchise. I don't even care to admit how long it took me to figure out what I was meant to do here while playing the game for the first time as a child, because I didn't know about the Midas myth and thought it was something the developers had come up with because the palace needed a name. So in hindsight, I'd argue that this level actually contributed to my cultural education. Number 2. St. Francis Folly. The first Greece level welcomes us with a pair of hungry and surprisingly resilient lions, making it clear that from here on out, things are going to get much more challenging than back in Peru. But combat quickly takes a back seat in favour of traps and platforming, as we notice once we enter a big vertical room with several doors and no obvious path forward. In one of Tomb Raider I's more creative find a few items to open the last door puzzles, Lara has to retrieve 4 keys from 4 different rooms dedicated to mythological deities, with puzzles and challenges tailored to their respective myths. Like Palace Midas, it's a clever way to integrate real-life mythology into the game, but this time you don't actually need any knowledge of the myths presented to overcome their challenges. Knowledge that the developers obviously didn't even have themselves, as only 2 of the 4 figures in this Greek monastery are actually Greek, the others being Roman and Norse, and I'm pretty sure Damocles isn't even a god in the first place. But that doesn't distract me from the fun of breaking into their sanctuaries and stealing their stuff. Number 1. Lost Valley. And here we have it. Lost Valley may be only the 3rd level in Tomb Raider I, and not much has happened yet, neither gameplay nor story-wise, but to me personally, it's the highlight of the entire game. The reason for this has a lot to do with nostalgia on my part. It's the level I remember most distinctly from my first playthrough as a child, not least because of my first encounter with the most unexpected enemy up until this point, the T-Rex. What is a living giant dinosaur doing in Peru in the late 1990s? No one knows. The game doesn't even make an attempt to explain it. But even after defeating the T-Rex, I still kept hiding in the valley's dark corners whenever possible, out of fear that another one might show up to avenge its fallen friend. I also appreciate the valley for its uniqueness within this game. It looks and feels completely different from any other location, but not out of place due to the way it's been embedded in the landscape. Now, in the remaster, it looks better than ever before. Yes, that includes Anniversary's much too bright and dumbed down reimagining, and the quest for the 3 cogs to turn off the waterfall blocking the entrance to Qualopec's tomb is still fun. That was my list of Tomb Raider I Remastered's levels, ranked from worst to best. Do you agree or disagree? Was I too harsh on your favourite level or blind to another's flaws? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section and make sure to come back for my next video, which will be ranking Tomb Raider 2's levels in the same fashion. Until next time.